I just wasn't feeling like myself. I wasn't feeling great. Over 100,000 rand still outstanding. I have to start paying off my school fees, otherwise there could be like repercussions and the fees will be handed over to whoever and blah blah blah, you know, all these things, right? I felt like I was still having to show up even though I could barely show up for myself. I feel like you've done enough to prove to yourself that you are all of these things. You are loved, you're beautiful. Hello, hi, and welcome. I don't do this that often, but today is different. Today is different because I have been in a rut. I have not felt like myself for a couple of weeks. What a way to start a video, right? I have not been great. I recently moved to a new country, and I feel like since I've moved here, I have just been going through life. Like life has been lifing, life has been hitting me hard. Honestly, I wouldn't even say it necessarily has to do with me moving here, but I think me moving here, I faced quite a lot of challenges, and time again, I just felt like I am unable to deal with those things in a way that I should be. And because of that, I just wasn't feeling like myself. I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't feeling capable. I wasn't feeling smart, beautiful. Like I just wasn't feeling confident and feeling like a stranger in my own body. And that sucked. It sucked a lot because I felt like I was still having to show up even though I could barely show up for myself. And it really isn't a great place to be in, quite frankly. I was still having to show up at work, show up for my family, and even, you know, just to some extent take care of myself. But the point is I wasn't, but I knew that going through that, and obviously, you know, with the support of like friends and family, I knew that I would eventually get out of that rut that I was in. And slowly I have been getting out of it. The reason why I thought to make this video or this audio recording of myself, however this will manifest, is because I felt like I needed to hear myself speak kindly of myself, or speak kindly to me. And it's more so a message to me to be kinder to myself. And I'll be explaining to me, so to future self who is watching this, I'll basically be, you know, explaining why you got this. Girl, you got this, you know? You got this, you've come so far, and there's so much to be grateful for. There's so much to be proud of. You are capable, and you are smart, and you are talented, and you know, there's so many things that you have done that have just proven to yourself that you are so resilient, and you rise to the occasion multiple times, even when you maybe don't feel like it, but you do, and you do it well. And when you do it, you feel fulfilled, you feel accomplished, you come out learning so much more and gaining a lot from the experience, and you pour into people as well, and people pour into you, because that's the energy that you send out, and therefore the energy that you invite into your life as well. You know, you don't have to prove anything to anyone but yourself, but I feel like you've done enough to prove to yourself that you are all of these things. You are loved, you're beautiful, you are smart, you're just great, you're just a dope person, and I hope you know that. I'll be sharing a bit of my life journey, again as a reminder to myself, because I think that sometimes we tend to forget those things. I'm gonna get into it. So growing up, I remember like when I was very young, I was just so fascinated about overseas, you know, the Americas and Europes and like all these places. And I always wondered, like, how are people able to go there and I'm not, you know? So for little me, looking at me today, this is absolutely nuts. This is crazy, the fact that I'm living in a foreign country. Because growing up, one of my biggest dreams was just to step foot outside, not even outside the country, but outside, like far, you know, far where they don't speak a similar language, where the practices and the cultures and the laws and everything are different. I remember in grade 9, I had a friend in grade 8. Was it grade 9 or was it varsity? I can't really remember. But there was a girl that I knew who, either in grade 9 or in varsity, moved to the UK. And I remember once reaching out to her and asking, like, hey, how did you go to the UK? And like, you know, what's really good? Like, how did you do this? You know? And even when I was applying for varsity, I did look at applying overseas, but it just didn't seem like a financially feasible thing to do. So I didn't go overseas. But when I did get to varsity, so my first year studies, I met quite a few people that had come on foreign exchange program, or I don't know if we had Erasmus there, but you know, one of those people from America and from, you know, Europe, all these places, and even people, not even people that came on foreign exchange programs, but rather people that just, you know, they did their high school in Kenya and now they studying at UCT. And just hearing that, like, people left their home countries to come here. I want to do that. I want to leave my home country to go somewhere. So I remember at UCT, I forget what the program was called. I can't remember what that program was called, but I did try to figure out how to just get into these programs that will allow me to go overseas, you know? And nothing ever came to fruition. I don't really recall why, but I just really wanted to go overseas for the longest time. I wanted to go because, you know, it's overseas. It's something different from what I know. And yeah, I just really wanted to do that. So fast forward about 2 years into me starting at UCT, I was officially financially excluded from UCT, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So this happened during the time when there was Fees Must Fall protests around the country. And if you aren't aware, the Fees Must Fall protests were basically protests that were led by students to abolish student fees, right? Because if we're being quite frank, the cost of education is ridiculously high. It is so high and it makes no sense. That's just what it is. And I am, or was, I guess still am, in the missing middle, I believe is what it's called. So that's basically when you're too rich to afford loans or sponsorships and things like that, but you're also too poor to pay for your own fees. So you sort of like caught in the middle where, you know, it's going to be a stretch to pay for your own fees, but any attempt that I made to secure a loan, really, sometimes even bursaries, but mostly loans, they didn't amount to anything. So my first year, my family did their best to pay for my school fees, which they did. But I mean, I'm a person, I have eyes, I can see. It was very difficult for me to see how difficult it was for my family, you know, to do that. But nonetheless, second year, I'm back at UCT, and this is when the Fees Must Fall protest starts towards the end of that year. And I remember leading up to the end of that year, although my family wasn't saying it, I knew, I had access to all my records, right? I could see that there's no way my family's going to be able to pay my fees in time. There was like, I'm pretty sure like over 100,000 rands still outstanding by the time fees must fall protests were happening. And at the end of that academic year, my fees were still not paid off. So I made the decision to not register in the next year of the next academic year, just to sort of save, I guess save isn't the right word, but to take that burden off my family, because it really did feel like that. You know, it felt like they were doing so much to get this education for me, but at what cost? You know, and also I'm all the way in Cape Town, where they're all the way in Johannesburg. You know, it was tough. It was tough. So I decided not to register. Fortunately or unfortunately, this was during the Fees Must Fall protest. So there were all these measures and things that were put in place to give financial aid to students across the board who have outstanding debts, right? And that's why I say I was officially financially excluded, because I don't believe I was actually told or emailed only up until like months later that I have to start paying off my school fees, otherwise there could be like repercussions and the fees will be handed over to whoever and blah blah blah, you know, all these things, right? So I spent the first couple of months like at home, basically doing nothing, because I think another thing is when I went into varsity, I actually didn't really know what I wanted to do. You know, I went through high school being really good at maths and, you know, all the subjects that are considered hard, which society does value, right? I was constantly in the top 10 of the grade. And, you know, again, those are things that are valued, but I didn't know what came or what comes after that, you know. So when I went into UCT, I studied AXI, actuarial science, and I think I mostly did that because that's what smart people do, right? I mean, if you're getting certain grades for maths and all these subjects, then you might as well just go and study AXI. But also, you know, it's a scarce skill. There's very few black women in South Africa that are actuarial scientists and you know, all these things. So sort of like a no-brainer to go and study actuarial science. And when I got to UCT, it sort of felt like, okay, I'm here, but I don't really know what I'm doing and I don't know where this is leading to. And I struggled. Funny, I didn't struggle. I mean, look, academics were a struggle. I never failed though, so that's what I mean by I didn't struggle, at least on paper, right? I didn't struggle on paper, but I struggled through university because it was then that, not even then, it was when I was home. So it was when I was home you know, after being unofficially financially excluded, that I realized that I went through high school basically being very good at school and not necessarily needing to do anything else. But then now I'm in varsity, I'm away from home, so I'm in some way supposed to be like leading my own life now, right? Because I need to sort myself out, I need to do my own laundry and make sure I eat, etc., all these things, you know, make friends, all this kind of stuff. And I felt like I really struggled because up until that point, my life had, well, not up until that point, up until like the end of high school, my life had pretty much always just been about academics, which I enjoyed, right? And now I'm in varsity and it feels like academics, first, I don't even know if I want to do actuarial science. And so my mind is not in it like that. And the academics, yes, I'm passing, but what does all of this mean? And also, I'm struggling because I don't know how to join society, or not even like, I know it sounds crazy, but I never needed to do that before, or I never necessarily had the interest to do all of those things before. So I found it difficult to start when I was in my first and second year of varsity. Yes, I had friends, yes, I went out with them, etc. But I don't really think I participated as much as I could have. Being unofficially excluded, I could, what is it, financially excluded from UCT after the Fees Must Fall protests. Honestly, I saw that as kind of a blessing in disguise, because I really was struggling at school. There were times when I remember there were people that would say, "Oh, hey, you still here? I thought that, you had left, or you never." Or some people would even be surprised that I stay at the res that I stay at, and it's because people would never see me. It got to a point where I was just in my room all the time. Yeah, man, it was bad. It got pretty bad. So me not being able to go back to school that following year, I sort of saw that as an opportunity for me to rediscover myself and to sort out things that I feel like need to be sorted out, because I was really going through the most, and there were some other things as well that I had to deal with during that time. And it was also during that time that my grandfather passed away, and I felt very fortunate that I could spend his last few days with him and not be far away in Cape Town, But I remember when that, like after my grandfather passed away, I think very slowly, but like I started coming back to myself, and I started to see that, I need to rebuild myself. I need to invest in things that, I need to invest in me. I need to be my own person and reestablish who Teko is, because all this time Teko has sort of been a product of what society deems is, I don't know, like the good kid who is doing well at school, and therefore her path is laid out for her, but then now Teko is messing up, or whatever the hell. Anyways, so it was also during that time that fortunately I managed to, with the help of my family, God bless their souls, but with the help of my family, I got sponsorship that was going to take care of all of my outstanding debt and also take me back to school to finish. So in the second half of that year, I went back to UCT, got registered, changed my degree completely, because I just felt like I don't know what I'm doing in AXI. I know that I'm good with numbers. I really enjoy maths. So let me just do something within that space, And I did. I graduated about 2 years after that, because remember I started at an awkward time now when people don't really start. So I also graduated at an awkward time. So I finished my studies in June of a year or 2 years later. And that's normally like time when graduate programs aren't open, like people aren't really looking to hire like that. And I understood that going, closing off that year. But at that time, I was still very energetic, and during that time that I went back to UCT, I also sort of invested in myself, invested in things that I enjoy doing. So that's when I started sewing, and I realized that I have this, I guess, this natural gift that I had never known to sew. But I started sewing during that time. I also kind of started running as well during that time. It helped me to take my mind off stuff, and I was getting fit in the process, so that was great. Fast forward a couple of years, I am working as a data scientist for a consulting firm in Portugal. How crazy is that? Like, how absolutely crazy is that? I have, through the past couple of years, been able to do things for my family that at some point I didn't think I would ever be able to do. and not even just do things for my family, do things for myself. Like, you know, when you grow up and you like, there's certain things that you wish that your parents could do for you, but they couldn't because they didn't have the financial means. And that's completely okay. And now when you're an adult, the things that you wanted for yourself as a kid, you're able to do for yourself. I believe that I had to go through that. I had to know what rejection felt like. I had to know how to build myself up from that, following all of the rejections. And I had to know what it, I guess, and again, this is personal for me, you know, my own learnings possibly that I had to learn, but I also had to learn what it felt like not to be entitled just because society deems you to be the best, right? Just because you're good at maths doesn't mean that you won't go through life the way other people are going through life. You know, you won't face struggles the way other people are facing struggles. This is just to say, Teko, never in your wildest dreams did, this is crazy. A couple of years ago, girl, you honestly did not think that you would be sitting in your own place in a foreign country doing the job that you wanted to do, and you're still sewing, you're still like heavily involved within volunteering and like just upskilling people around you, because honestly that's what you're passionate about. You do your own nails, you know how to do your own hair, you know how to navigate like foreign land by yourself. That is no easy feat, and you're doing it so effortlessly, Teko. Like, girl, honestly, you got this. Honestly, you got this. And it gets tough sometimes, and it can be tougher because you're far away from home, and you, like, a lot of the things you feel like you have to go through yourself, and therefore you always have to be strong. But you know that there are people that you can call, and it will feel like they're right there. And even if you didn't have anyone to call, which thank God that you do, you have God, you have prayer. Like, lean into that, like you always have been leaning into that. Do not neglect prayer, do not neglect taking care of yourself. At the end of the day, this life is yours, it's yours to live. You are only accountable to yourself, and make the most of it. So the tough times will be there, but I'm telling you, you are going to rise stronger, because a couple of years ago, you didn't think that you'll be sitting here now. And I can tell you for sure, a couple of years from today, you're going to be looking at this video and saying, damn girl, we have come so far. You got this, girl, you got this. So yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Share whatever you feel like sharing down below. I'll be interested to hear your stories, if this helped in any way. And yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you in the next one. Take care. Bye.